Okay, I'm going to do another video for you that shows you how to use a chainsaw file, a round file. Out in Oregon we call them chainsaw files because everybody's got a chainsaw, to sharpen a broadhead. And I'm gonna do it on one of our Phoenix 3-blade broadheads. There's a couple reasons why you might want to try using the chainsaw file. The main one being, I like to use broadheads even after they get nicks in them, and you shoot them a bunch and you're going to hit a rock or you're going to do something and put a little nick in it, and I don't know how well this will show up. This is one of the broadheads that I was using when I was just field testing these things, and I shot it, and it's been hit with other broadheads, and got a little few nicks in it. I shot it into gravel pile, that kind of thing. And if you use a flat file, when you got a big nick in your broadhead, what'll happen is, for you to get that nick out of there and make that sharp again, you've got to completely file the whole thing down. If you use a round file, what'll happen is it'll start sharpening down into the nick itself, and you don't have to remove it completely before you get it sharp again. And it basically puts a serrated edge on what used to not be a serrated edge. I prefer a file edge on my sharpening anyway, so I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, the other thing that works for me with these is they work perfectly in the jig that I use for sharpening these. Most of the time I sharpen by hand, and when I do that, I actually put the broadhead on the arrow and just sharpen it, by hand, real carefully. But I'm going to show you how using this jig, and the little chainsaw file works really well with that too. So put the broadhead into the jig and clamp it down. And tell you one thing I usually do with this, and it's not perfectly necessary, but I do it anyway, is I always sort of line up the edge that I'm going to work on with the back of the jig, and just make sure that those two planes are parallel. And if they are, you'll be working perfectly parallel when you use the jig. And then to use this, I put a rubber band up on the chainsaw file, and the reason for that is this part of the file, from where the rubber band is up, that's smooth. That doesn't have any teeth to cut with anyway, and so that makes sure that I never go past that, and it'll keep me from wearing down that washer with the file. So once you've reached that point, it'll stop it for you. Now, if you're going to use a chainsaw file in a jig like this, you've got to pull. You make a pull stroke instead of a push stroke. If you're just using the chainsaw file, you can push if you'd rather, as opposed to pull. But pretty simple to do. Just hold this in here and use that chainsaw file, and like you would with any other file, you're just doing this until you've established a burr on the back side of that edge. You can be fairly aggressive at first if you need to be. It doesn't take much. But as you start putting an edge on that, you're going to want to start going a little bit softer and a little bit softer. And then you reach down there and feel. And I'm starting to get a burr along most of that. Okay, just take that out and turn it over. Working off that same blade, you can take your round file, and just lay it right down on that broadhead and remove that burr on the flat side with just a couple of strokes. And check the other side. You might have put the burr, rolled it back over. And then you just need to make sure you really lightly take that off. And then something I like to do is use the round end of that steel, just kind of like you'd use the steel on a kitchen knife, and run that down on one side and then run that down on the other and get that really sharp. And that really is all there is to it. And that has got a very nice sharp edge. Go ahead and take that off one more time there to make it super sharp. You could file it from here if you, or excuse me, you could use a stone from here if you wanted to. But I actually kind of like that edge that's got just a little bit of something to it. Got a rubber band here that's been cut to kind of show how sharp that is to cut. Took very little pressure. I wasn't really stretching that rubber band out. You don't want to do that. You can, I suppose. You could really stretch that thing out if you wanted to and make it cut, but that's really not what you want to do. You want to just put a little bit of pressure there. But you can see those teeth grab as they go through that, and there's not a lot of pressure. You just stretch it from about there to about there and just roll that up on it and let it cut. It's a real simple, not putting a lot of pressure on there to cut it. You can shave with that if you want to. I'm just getting kind of tired of shaving hair on my arm, but it would do that if you needed it to. Pretty simple way to put an edge on it. I really prefer that file sharpened edge. So you can do that with a chainsaw file, and that will even get the little nicks. I don't know if you can see that, but you get a little nick in your blade anywhere in there like that. It'll sharpen those too. You do that with the chainsaw file. So, little trick for you. Another way you can use that jig, maybe makes it a little more useful for you. Use it. Have fun.